too funny. Like, for those of you who don't know, we have a countdown before LinkedIn like lives, and it's literally like, it reminds me back to my LinkedIn days where you're on stage and it's like this, pumping music in the background.
Experience for the first time for me just now. I was like, what's going to happen?
It's great, isn't it? It's a really good pump up. I think they've got a good system going there. We're going to allow for a few people, I think, to get loaded in. I can see some familiar faces. Hi, Kim, and we've got somebody from a miserable and wet Leeds.
Oh no.
Hey, Marcello. Yeah, and it's like, it's great. There's some pre-gamers on here that we're on before we went live, so it's really nice to have some
the early crew.
The early crew. We've got Chicago. So that means we've got Chicago. You're in. So I'm, just as people come on, so I'm a Londoner based in Sydney, Australia, but back in London at the moment. Alex is based in sunny.
Well, yeah, not today. It's Miami. So typically very sunny, but don't come at me yet because it's rainy today. So I'm with everything else anywhere that it's rainy. So
yeah, and it's actually sunny in London. So I'm going to take it. Probably people are going to kill me for saying that and tempting fate. But we got hi from Rochester, from Portland. We got Chicago. We got the Leeds one made me chuckle. We got Atlanta. This is amazing. It's so good. So
really cool.
Really, really cool to see so many people on, like, coming in. So I think we're just going to kickstart slowly, letting people come in or do the thing. But we'll have a sort of a quick introduction. So my name is Elle Green, for those of you who haven't met me, and I feel like as part of the employer brand working community and then a few years at LinkedIn, I've met quite a lot of people, but it's amazing to always meet some new faces. So I've got almost 20 years in employer branding, talent marketing, running recruitment marketing agencies, employer branding agencies, RPOs, LinkedIn. I've worked across all kinds of different segments, and my role now is as sort of VP of Community and Strategic Partnerships at the Martech. And I joined here because, for me, the juxtaposition of AI, employee advocacy, storytelling, to really help organizations make impact and hit KPIs was just super exciting. And I'm just super, pumped to be here with you, Alex.
I'm so excited to be with you too, Ellen. I'm just like watching everybody coming through. It's really cool. Like, good morning, afternoon, evening, where everybody is. That's so cool that you've joined us. This is my first LinkedIn Live, so I'm nervous and excited, but it's really cool to be doing this.
Can't tell you look super cool, Alex. Don't worry.
All the time. So I'm Alex Bado. I'm the VP of Sales here at the Martech. I have about 12 years of experience also in talent acquisition, employer branding, talent marketing, talent brand, all of the things. I specifically was focused in on developing career sites and content strategies to fuel different SaaS that organizations use to stand up their talent acquisition and employer brand needs. So it's actually kind of come full circle for me right now to join the Martech a couple months ago, because, right back to focusing in on employee generated content, employee advocates, content to support all of the various things that you have stood up in ways that you reach out to candidates. So I'm glad that my path has led me to LinkedIn Lives with Elle Green today and with all
right. I feel like it was meant to be. I feel like it was absolutely meant to be.
Exactly. So really excited to meet with everybody. And yeah, well, career sites will be a big topic for today that you'll see as we get into the KPIs. And Ernesto, hi, I'm in Miami. So we're both in South Florida as well. So yeah, we can dive into everything whenever you think, Elle, and just get rolling with everyone that we have.
I think let's let the guys know what we're going to be covering, what to expect. Let's get in now. I think most people are probably in.
Awesome. Let's do it. So we'll show you a lot today. We have a lot of information to cover. For those of you who have already downloaded our KPI guide, there's a lot of detail. we'll go through as much as we can in the short time that we have together. Elle and I will essentially be running through the top KPIs that we've put together, our insights, giving you a little bit of a taste of the KPIs for different titles or industries, what people have proposed. And then we are going to do a deep dive into the top 2 KPIs and some really great takeaway resources for you all as well. And you'll have content planners, strategy guides, the full KPI guide. You're going to leave here with a lot of information. And we're always available for any questions that you have as well.
Yeah, amazing. Thanks, Alex. So I feel like, I need a drum roll, but I'm not very good at rolling my R's, so I could really embarrass myself here, but I am so excited. It's like 8 months of research, 549 data points. And if we take the median average employee size, we're looking at over 65,000 employees. So I think, we're talking about leaders in employer brand and TA who are always juggling like multiple priorities, multiple KPIs. And that's why we created this guide and we can't go through it all today, as Alex said, but the idea is to help you with this guide, talk to the business, have conversations and help actually define and prioritize KPIs to what's really important to you as an organization. So we're going to deep dive into a couple of the top ones later, but super high level, I want to take out some really interesting points here, as what I'm seeing is so invaluable. And it's in essence the direction of our entire industry on one page and at a really senior enterprise level. And I don't feel like I've seen this honesty before. It's super incredible. And we spend a lot of time talking to people on so many different priorities and topics in the space, but this really peels back that layer in a thoughtful way to see the top priorities behind everyone's efforts. The top priorities that are also no doubt feeding into tangible results, which as we all know is so important for our functions, or need to feed into tangible results. So it just really shows the motivation of our space. And despite macro market conditions, it proves why we are all still extraordinarily busy. Anyway, that said, for sure you've got things sticking in your own brains looking at this, but I'd just love to pick 1 or 2 things worth highlighting that caught my eye. So if we look at the top 6 in a league of their own, I mean, stand out. First of all, career traffic is king. Which I think is, super interesting considering, and we're going to deep dive into that a bit more, the current conditions. Then talent brand, employee content, employee retention, diversity, and then Glassdoor. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm not sure I would have picked for some of those to be in the top, such as like retention and Glassdoor. And it's super important, but as an actual KPI on itself for TA and EB, super interesting. And I think that's the shift in the kind of roles and what we're all taking on. But for now, I want to first stick to the broad themes. So I'm going to stick into the broad themes and then we're going to dive into the top KPIs. I think interestingly, some of the other distinctions between the top 6 KPIs and the other KPIs low down on the list. High KPIs seem less tactical, they're more strategic and foundational compared to the more tactical KPIs that might focus on the specifics of the recruitment process, such as time, cost to hire, or conversion. Although we know those are the downstream KPIs of those broader ones. They're also broader. And what I mean by that is they tend to have broad implications for the company's brand and culture. For example, diversity isn't just about hiring. It reflects the need for EB, TA folk, anyone in talent to kind of work with the broader organization on the culture and the values at the heart. And then there's a real mix here of qualitative and quantitative aspects. While some like career site traffic can be quantitative, others like talent brand or employee content may have qualitative aspects that require more in-depth analysis to measure effectively. Yeah. So a real mix here, Alex.
Totally. And I was just going to say, I think, and I'm interested to see what everybody else on here thinks. So, put in your comments, or we'll hopefully have time as well for Q&A at the end. But for me, the career site traffic being number 1 was huge. I think, in my opinion, this is such a strong metric because it really shows intent from job seekers. Like I almost correlate it to like somebody coming over to your house to like get to know you a little bit better. Like they're really trying to like see what you're all about as an organization, what it would be like to work there. So I think also it impacts leaders throughout the organization outside even of TA and employer brand. So, that's something we'll get into a little bit later, but interested to hear everyone's thoughts on that.
And I think also for those of you I did a LinkedIn Live, I think it was about 5 hours ago, specifically on employer brand and career sites. One of the things about that is all this talk about, there's redundancies and people are hiring. And I think it just shows that despite what's going on, it's still so important that we see the need for organizations to do this well. But I'll park that for later. I shall not change the flow of this. But for now, if we dig a little deeper, let's see how some of these KPIs change by role. So, for example, obviously I would take employer brand. And if we look at the top KPIs for this role, as some of the top specific examples we saw, I was super fascinated. To see Glassdoor so high was a real surprise for me. I expected social media on the whole to be higher. And in that, I would assume from the other data we have, this would really be another way of saying LinkedIn. And I said earlier, I kept saying the L word, not just because I'm, ex-LinkedIn, but just really interested to see that whilst both KPIs are up there, it's Glassdoor that just took the edge here, and very specifically. And I expect, if I'm honest, I think this is largely due to the roller coaster of the last couple of years and the focus on both mitigating damage and organizations trying to have a degree of influence over that narrative. So I actually really like the fact that it's a strong KPI, because actually if you focus, there's really cool tactics which we've included that you can do around that. Personally, I'm super pleased to see employee retention so high for employer branding folk. The last few years have seen such a focus on talent acquisition for employer brand. I think traditionally also, and last couple of years, so to see retention so high really highlights the different environment we're living in now. And I would take that back to organizations as a massive trend. While companies are in this position of making redundancies, in some skill sets, but also trying to retain and hire in other pools of talent, it's a really interesting place to be right now. I think it's really healthy for attention, not just acquisition as a top focus, not just for EB, but TA leaders both. As again, for me, it shows for TA the evolution of talent acquisition encompassing modes such as buy, build, borrow, and the utilization of automation. So I'm really happy to see this shift on internal capability for both EB and TA, as I think it also underscores something super interesting, which is the value of employer brand in fostering employee engagement, retention, extending beyond mere attraction, which we've always known, but now to see it KPI'd, I think is such a shift.
Right. So, I know we can't unfortunately go into every single KPI by title.
We'd like to.
We would like to. Let us know if you'd like to. We can
we can shift everything.
We're free. Let us know. I wanted to at least put together KPIs per title, at least that top one KPI, just to give you a little bit of a variation. I know there's already been a little bit in the chat around, of course, it depends on the function that you're hiring for. There's going to be different intentions for different employees or job seekers, or then certainly, what TA and employer brand are focused on, and talent brand, talent marketing. So this is from a title perspective. We will get into a little bit from an industry perspective in just a moment. But it is interesting here to see, a lot of variation, or even within similar roles, having pieces here. So TA and employer brand are aligned from a career site traffic piece, pretty much both focused on increasing that, growing the traffic. We're seeing between 20 and 40% on average of what's been reported through. And we love seeing talent brand as well, focusing on diversity hires. So Elle mentioned this earlier, but I think it's really interesting that, as you can see in the specific KPI listed here, that it's really looking into diversity hiring for tech and leadership. So it's certainly a trend that we've heard a lot from the last several years. Potentially this could be based on someone's organization. Maybe they have a strong brand already in place and looking to refine it and personalize it further. And somebody had mentioned this in the chat as well. I think Cordell had mentioned he was surprised in general seeing that the hiring was so low. For me, I was also surprised that talent acquisition's top KPI wasn't around, hiring in particular or diversity. So it was something that would be a more directly tied hiring metric. I think we all know, a commitment to diversity hiring just really strengthens your talent brand. It can open up that wider talent pool for you to get top talent. So really interesting. That might be a shift as well from the last year or so where there were layoffs and maybe hiring pauses. This might be, a reaction from that, and really focusing in on retention and the brand overall. A couple other things to note on here is, talent marketing leaders, to no surprise, they're really focused on improving brand awareness, marketing, really focused on social media metrics. And as Elle shared earlier, we're seeing employee content really boost engagement across the board. I mean, we're talking even like 10x of engagement. And then as a result of that, the reach can just go even further, specifically on LinkedIn, more so than content that's just sent out from a company post or even the CEO or someone within the C-suite. So if you're, fighting this battle, this is your sign to get, marketing buy-in on that EGC strategy or the advocacy you're trying to run with, even just a, employer brand content strategy, because it can certainly help them hit marketing KPIs that they have around social media metrics. And then the final one that I want to touch on this slide that I found very interesting is, human resources leaders prioritizing Glassdoor. Elle mentioned this at the top of the call as well. And obviously we all know, review sites like Glassdoor are always part of the candidate journey, maybe more so for different segments or different types of roles than others. But, most are taking a look within generally what are people saying it's like to work there, whether that's on Glassdoor or just talk throughout social media or other forums. And I don't know if everyone on the call remembers this, but several years back, there was a pretty big movement to try to incentivize employees to post positive reviews on Glassdoor. For a lot of reasons that didn't really take off.
I'm like this right now.
Right. Maybe for the best, let's just keep this as authentic as possible. But, I think that, of course, HR and other leaders throughout an organization realize that positive reviews are a result of a positive culture and positive experiences. So to me, this metric around HR's objectives with Glassdoor is really about improving the employee experience and promoting that positive culture. I think part of that is unveiling what those positive aspects are of working at your organization, what those potentials are for employees to grow, and then really highlighting those impactful employee stories to showcase that.
Yeah, I agree. You can influence the narrative and you can influence with act, but you can't do it any other way. You influence it, you change the environment, and then, use the comms available to tell that story. I agree.
Got to, promote what you have, I think, for sure. So definitely huge opportunities there within HR and any other, department leads as well from a Glassdoor perspective, or showcasing your story throughout career sites, social media, tying a lot of the KPIs together. So if we flip this data a bit, I mentioned we're going to look at industry. So we're looking just for 2 examples today from human resources and recruitment, and then finance and banking. And just a little bit of like a reminder on this. So for finance and banking, these are still, talent acquisition, employer brand, talent brand, HR, talent marketing respondents who just work for an organization that is within the finance and banking industry. And some respondents, opted to classify their personal industry as HR and recruitment. So regardless of the industry or the company that they work for currently, what that belongs to. So if we look at that human resources and recruitment piece, the social media comes out on top for the whole industry, which is very interesting. There's been, an ongoing movement, I think, within our space where a move away from, just posting on jobs, so, traditional job boards, more into programmatic media. And then even beyond programmatic media, I think that this shows the highlight of, in a lot of ways, media investment is kind of table stakes to make sure that you're getting in, the application volume that you need for high volume roles or hard to fill roles that you're trying to hire for, getting that visibility. But the content that's shared across social media on your career sites, those are the driving factors behind convincing and converting job applicants, specifically passive job seekers as well. So there's really, no way around it. There's, content strategy across any channel, whether that's, your own site or conversations about working at your organization online. That's a key factor in hiring. If we take a look at just below there, the finance and banking sector, it's fascinating to see employee retention as the top spot. I think that all 4 of these KPIs that are listed under here are all very closely related. Obviously, Glassdoor rating is reflective of working conditions, employee satisfaction, so that's directly correlated with retention. But employee content and sharing that content throughout social media or publicly also drives retention. Think about how it feels to have your employer say, we want to hear from you. We value your experience. We value your story, or even further, we want you and your story to represent our organization publicly. That can go a really long way from improving satisfaction, inclusion, retention rates. And I think within finance and banking in particular, it's obviously seen a lot of changes over the last couple of years, and there's still risks and uncertainty around, the industry as a whole going into 2024. But I'm sure those are all factors into retention concerns. But something that stuck out to me is that this industry in particular was, noted over the past year of one of the ones that benefited the most from some of the, layoffs that happened within the larger tech industry and being able to capture that, top tech talent. So I wonder if with some of the, cooling tech organization layoffs, maybe that's part of the concern around retention of this specific talent. But either way, I think what we've seen throughout this data is certainly that retention is top of mind. And that's understood from a cost saving perspective. Obviously, we all have seen the stats of how much it can cost an organization to replace an employee, and how huge organizations are having even up to $1 trillion in costs due to turnover. So no surprise there, how important this is.
Yeah, I agree. And then also, if you look at retention, employee content, etc., as well, I think that's again around advocacy and how do you help people, as you said, feel part of the organisation, tell the story, etc. So I think that's super important. And we've got a question. We're going to come to all of these at the end, and I think that's really important about how you actually measure. And just in case we haven't made this clear, when we actually share this out, we've got some Notion pages as part of this guide, if you haven't looked at them already. And a lot of that Notion page is strategy, stats, linked into those stats, how you can measure some of this awareness, like things like vanity metrics, traffic, conversion, how that all feeds in. So specific questions like that, that's the whole idea of the Notion page. You can copy it, download it, change it, make it your own, go for your life.
Awesome. Yeah, good point, Elle. Thank you. So a little bit on this before we move on. Again, you'll be receiving all of these slides afterwards. You can dig into it even further detail, but wanted to give at least a little bit of a snapshot of that number 1 KPI per industry. So this is, you'll see the full list. It might be showing a little bit small on LinkedIn. You will, have it afterwards.
I can't see it from here, Alex.
It's very hard to be totally honest. But again, I think it's a great resource for you to go back to the planning, benchmarking, seeing what your industry is prioritizing. And I'm seeing this also as maybe an opportunity to be able to assume what your talent competitors might be investing in 2024 and plan accordingly. So I know that we have, quite a few representatives from engineering companies on this webinar today, or that have registered. So I can call out those KPIs just as a high level for this slide. We have tech and software on here. Career site traffic was number 1, again, from that industry in particular. But for those that classified as engineering, employee content came out as the top focus. So, this makes a lot of sense to us. We know, of course, engineering talent, software or hardware is, notoriously difficult to attract and to hire. So it's no wonder that that's being prioritized from an employee content standpoint, just based on wanting to really harness that engagement from employees. We also know that this can also be a difficult area to gather those stories from. So this talent in particular can be challenging. We have tackled that challenge several times for our customers. So let us know if you're struggling with that and want to have a sidebar chat. We have some really great takeaways that we can share with you. And then before I pass it over to Elle, just as a reminder, we have a full detailed breakdown of all of the KPI data. I'm more than happy to, set up one-on-ones or send that to you as well if you don't already have it, and answer one-off questions. And after this webinar, you will have everything. And whether you don't have the KPI guide just yet, you will get that as well. And there'll be a high level and breaking down the top 10 KPIs. So now that I've overloaded everybody, I'm going to take a voice break. Elle, do you want to take us through the top 2 KPIs deep dive?
I would love to. So we are going to start with number 1 KPI, career site traffic. As I said at the beginning of this session, I'm genuinely super surprised to see that as the number 1 KPI, but it is the most important digital asset you have. With its measurability, frontal door to the business, highly visible public profile, it's still no surprise that 52% of candidates seek out your career site first. And again, as I said, the full guide has all the stats and the sources for you. So they do seek out your career site, whether it's social, whether they're researching Glassdoor, LinkedIn, everything we've talked about. We can pretty much guarantee that 52% of them seek out the career site first, and the rest of them will still engage. So, we run leadership events for EB and TA leaders, and it was fascinating, but probably not surprising to see that despite career site being so high profile, most, as you see from data, are not happy, that they feel neutral about their career sites, and most hadn't updated their career site in a long time. And we know that that's super hard to do. There's processes, there's key stakeholders, but so we tend to work with customers and say, well, where's your quick wins? So going back to things like employee content, can you update the content on it? You might not necessarily. I was talking to somebody, I was in Amsterdam, and if I'm not going to say who is on the call, we were having a conversation about the fact that, for example, they were seeing a lot of people drop off with applications through a career site. And I was like, well, why don't you post a video talking about the application? Because it was really long-winded. Doing things like just posting a video that tells them what to expect through the career site, or doing things, those quick wins, to kind of mitigate the negative damage that your career site might have, and that will take 6 to 12 months to remedy.
Yeah, I think that's a great point also. Like, when we're looking at this career site traffic piece, keep in mind that a lot of organizations have those job description pages and landing pages within their career site, not just within the ATS piece. So that's certainly something to keep in mind, all having that conversation or having that experience for the job seekers all lumped within that career site experience.
Yeah.
So this is a couple of examples, just resources of what you'll get. Again, I think Belinda as well had a question. We'll have full slide examples to send through to you, and the KPI guide in particular. All of the detail will be provided after this and sent out. Part of that as well that you'll get is a strategic guide specifically on the career site. So knowing that this is such a high KPI, top of mind for everyone, we've put this together on how to champion that within your organization. And this is whether you have a career site stood up already and you really just need to champion being able to constantly refresh that or improve it from whenever the last time that it was, from a content perspective, or even rethinking the experience overall from a UX UI perspective. Or if you don't have one set up just yet within your organization and really needing to advocate for the importance of having that stood up. So over to the top left, you'll see this is just a screenshot example of what you'll see in that full summary guide of the Notion guide that Elle had mentioned that you'll receive. This is a mind map to help you build that case of why it's so important with the KPIs that we have as well. And then lower right-hand corner, again, snapshot of what you'll see from more detail in the Notion guide that you'll receive. This is what will help you align with key stakeholders within your organization and showing them how they're tied to the impact of career site KPI as well. And really just being able to help you rally the troops behind what you're trying to get accomplished and push through. As mentioned at the top of the call, I've spent almost 11 years really prior to my time at the MarTech focused on, building career sites, improving that candidate experience specifically within a career sites piece. So definitely take advantage of this. I wish that I would have had this resource at my previous organization. So
oh my God, I hear you, Alex. So my colleague Bree Mason and I, who put a lot of this, we not the research and the data, but put a lot of this together. And she's an amazing consultant that I've worked with for years, putting this together. We were talking about how many cans of soda we drank, how many lollies or sweets we were having, cups of coffee. But do you know what? That's literally what we just said. It's like, oh my God, why didn't anyone do this for us?
Doing the good work for the people. Thank you.
You've got to share the love, Alex.
Yeah.
You've got to share the love. I think it is very much as we're looking at this. So, from the top 5 real KPIs are selected by TA and EB leaders to highlighting the importance of setting career site traffic KPIs so you can get your stakeholders on the same page. We also put together a detailed strategy guide for you based on months of the research, poll and data collection, as we're saying. And there's some really, really great insight here that I think you'll find super valuable. But as you can see, I mentioned this earlier, that many of the top 5 KPIs are interrelated. So, for example, increasing page visibility can potentially increase traffic volume. So when you're choosing your KPIs, it's worth thinking about what else could be affected by setting these goals. We don't have time in our lives to do everything. So I highly recommend you actually pick KPIs that are interrelated, that impact each other. So an example of this is things like maintaining a 40 to 50% or less bounce rate. If the bounce rate is higher, it could obviously impact the other metrics negatively. And conversely, achieving other KPIs might help in reducing the bounce rate. So, for instance, if content is engaging, visitors might spend more time on the site, reducing the bounce rate, which then helps with your KPI and your argument for employee content. If you see, it's kind of where we're going with this, right? So bucket them together.
Awesome. Yeah. So, I think another portion of this is once you do have your career site up, or you've reached that achievement that you're trying to get of having it refreshed, the areas that you're wanting to focus on, and once you overall have your strategy in place, the next step is really to implement the right tools to scale and measure and make sure that you're continuously evolving this. So I know one of the some of the questions throughout have been how do you measure this? How do you measure that? We have a guide at the end as well that I'll show you that we've put together for these top KPIs, tips and tricks of how you can start measuring these as well. For career site in particular, that can be implementing Google Analytics to see the impact even on specific pieces of content. Maybe the next step for you is then implementing a CRM or some sort of drip campaign strategy for the talent networks of those who visited your career site, said they were interested in a job, applied or didn't apply. The MarTech also has solutions that can help you flesh out your career site from a content perspective and have that set up from an ongoing basis to constantly refresh. So, there's a number of different tools that are available depending on what you're trying to accomplish, what your specific KPIs are, how you want to measure those. But that's the next piece as well, wanting to take a look as to, where do we go from here once that's set up, once you have that up and running.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I think we talk to a lot of customers that don't have access to Google Analytics. So I think either, make friends with marketing, and any marketeers on this call, please make friends with your TA and EB counterparts. Or if you can't do that, look at solutions, as Alex said, like MarTech, or it might be LinkedIn or other tools that can actually help you start measuring some of that traffic and collect your own data. But sort of leading into, getting a great career site, we're actually going to skip for today, deep diving into the number 2 KPI of talent brand. It's such a big KPI. We've actually decided we're going to do a whole session on the talent brand KPI, and I've actually got some amazing, much more knowledgeable guest speakers than me already lined up. So please keep an eye out for that. But for today, we're going to jump straight through to number 3, KPI employee content. with a potential for authentic employee content to increase your brand reach by over 561%. I'll just say that again, over 561%, compared to messages shared by official brand social channels. It's no wonder that employee content ranks so highly amongst our polled leaders. And again, in our leadership events, it was unanimous that employee content positively impacts hiring KPIs and is crucial to a talent brand strategy. And why is this? So employee content is 3 times more credible than CEOs regarding an organizational working environment, and it can also generate 10x more engagement on social media than regular brand content. And then I think we all know it's also 70% more trusted than any other source. And again, all this data is available to you. In a recent study, 77% of candidates reported that their impression of the company improved after reading employee stories, which I think is so valuable for organizations that are kind of rebounding post-COVID, who are going through transformation, who are going through an organizational restructure due to skills changes and that transformation piece. I think that's so important right now. And interestingly, sometimes, and on the last session I did, Brie laughed at me because I said, like, no more pictures of pets in the office. While I love pets in the office and I work with my 2 pets, my cats, Pink and Floyd, just so you know, I love it. But candidates are actually actively searching for the information about the reality of working at companies, what that looks like, what that feels like. And actually, a really high number of 75% of candidates report that companies didn't share content like key day in the life information on their career site. So it's about being thoughtful what information you're sharing with them. So if we look at the fact that improving employee content can cover a wide range of KPIs, as we've said, from increasing content volume in general and the right content volume, or encouraging more content distribution, or telling of a specific story to impact talent pools, attracting certain key talent, it's no wonder that employee content ranks so highly. 86% of active job seekers find their next job opening through social media. So again, increasing the amount of employee content increases the chance of right talent finding you. And you can see what we're doing here, trying to link all the KPIs together. And Brie and I talked about this on our session a few hours ago, and we agreed that it's less about increasing the sheer volume of traffic or content generally, or traffic to your website, and it's more about increasing the volume of quality traffic, because let's not forget, it's not content for content's sake. We talked about this, we saw this quite a bit in Amsterdam last week, that it's about creating quality content that leads to quality traffic, so content with intent. And the best way to do that is by leveraging your influencer army, your employees' credibility and reach, by having them share stories and views to drive organic traffic. But you need to make that easy for people to do. They're busy and it's not their job. And I know for me, even for sharing, it's easier if I'm given something to share and I already have the social copy created for me. So develop as much as you can, develop and leverage tools that can help you create templates and processes to simplify content ideation and generation for your employees. They will do it if it's made easy. But don't just take my word for it. There's some great data to back up this approach using content templates. It significantly reduces time to produce content in 56% of businesses. Creating consistent branding across all platforms also increased revenue by up to 23%. So if you're trying to get buy-in from marketing to help you guys with your employer brand, your recruitment marketing, or regional campaigns, this is a really good stat for you to get stakeholders engaged here. Because it also causes a more proactive approach to content creation in 65% of companies, and reduces companies' content production costs by up to 27%. And then remembering additionally that content assets take on different forms according to where in the talent journey you are. So where do you want that employee content KPI to strategically impact? So think about things like, are you trying to increase brand awareness? I'm thinking about that message earlier about measuring it. would be things like creating thought leadership blogs on your website, on LinkedIn, for example. If you're trying to improve applications, think specifically about creating things like a day in the life, as I've just mentioned. Or it might be, you have a drop off or, negative NPS around the hiring experience. Or it might be meet your team videos. And then think about the necessity to mix up written versus video to different talent segments. So grads and interns, or tech versus experience or exec hires, for example.
Or even various industries. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt.
No. You can interrupt me anytime, Alex. But yeah, you're right. Different industries. And we've seen that in this data. So I think, just so you know, in addition to the content strategy guides, we've also built out free 12-month content plans, which have, I think, 700, I think, unique content examples mapped to each KPI. So if you're busy scribbling, again, we can sort of share that with you, because you're right. It's not just the different assets, different talent segment, different industry. It's different everything.
Yeah, it's a lot. There's definitely a lot of really great examples in this as well. And again, all things that you'll get after this certainly can be a little bit overwhelming from wanting to give you as much information as possible and examples for you to run with this on your own. So, don't hesitate to reach out to us to just ask some questions of how it's being used as well.
Yeah, you're quite right. Thanks, Alex.
Cool. Well, of course, like the pending AI side, like no conversation can happen these days without a mention of AI. So I'll be that person. But I mean, we all know this. AI in various ways and forms can help you do this. It can help you scale this. The AI that we employ at the MarTech can, help you by, informing you of trending topics that your key target audiences want to hear about. What are they already talking about? Where do you need to be having discussions with them? How do you get their attention? It can help you identify hidden top advocates within your organization, maybe the ones that aren't already posting a lot on LinkedIn or posting on other platforms, but have a passion around specific areas that are key values to the company or your key KPIs. They can also, AI can help drive question prompts just to make your life easier. Like, try to get the best out of these employees, try to get the most information, what you're trying to gather from a quality content standpoint. And that's for written and video. And, it can also help even coach employees through their responses, help them think of other things the same way that a human interviewer would, just a lot quicker, a lot easier, really allowing you to free up to focus on other areas of your role. And I know, I hate that, similar to AI, I hate using this term because it's so overused these days, but the reality is that everybody, especially in our industry, is tasked with doing more with less. Utilizing and
I heard that a lot last week, Alex, a lot.
We're all tired. Like, I think that all of us are doing a lot more with a lot less. And I think that, being able to embrace the AI, being able to, utilizing it in any tool or fashion that can really just help you be more powerful in your role and achieve more. That's what it's all about. So, happy to discuss this further. Try to not mention the word AI even further, but yeah, it's something to keep in mind for sure.
Oh, look, you're probably hosting that with the wrong person. I'm a fan of AI. I have to say, I'm terrified, but also a fan. I think we're deep in it. And I think, using AI and having obviously just come back from World EB Day, is looking at your talent journey and thinking, where can AI help me be better? Help me be less busy, take those tasks away. Again, I think probably a whole other workshop. But I think people do need to embrace it. But I also think educate and kind of, try and help understand what's my organization. Again, looking at these KPIs, 100% suggest, look at your talent journey all the way through to attraction, through to retention. Look at your KPIs that you've either been given or trying to create, and thinking, actually, what can I do? And where can AI help me with speed and scale and impact? I'm off my soapbox about AI now.
I agree. I totally agree. So yeah, we had mentioned you will be sending through, that full KPI guide for those of you who don't have it already. All of the data behind these key KPIs. We have even further detail into, digging into industries. If you're interested, reach out to us. But plus, something that I mentioned earlier as well is the strategy guide, essentially like little battle cards that we've put together for those top 10 KPIs.
So much goodness.
It's a lot. There's a lot
so
of
much goodness.
There is a lot of work that went into all of this, as you can imagine, not just gathering the research over the 8 months and digesting all of it, but then putting this together to really try to enable everybody here to have all the information that you need, have the examples that you need. This will also include strategic plans on measurement. What are the tried and true resources that you have available, tried and true methods that you can try out. Really just a handy place to have all of these KPIs in one place and all of the strategy guides in one place. So I really encourage everyone to take advantage of that. And of course, here, I think we also had Chelsea reach out with a question for you, Elle, as well. But last thing, that we'll mention, we are offering, complimentary one-on-one or one-to-team sessions if you want to dig into your industry KPIs or specific titles. So happy to set up time with you, reach out to us. Hi, Michael. Thank you so much again also for joining. And yep, Elle, I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you so much. So we are, you're quite right, opening up to questions. Our incredible unsung hero, our community manager, Chelsea, has been gathering the questions behind the scenes. So if you want to hang around for the last few minutes, we're going to answer any questions that you had. One already. You just say it's for me. So interesting to see that employee retention is a core KPI for employee branding. In your opinion, is that the EB team's responsibility or the key stakeholders? Somebody knows me very well. I feel like I've been stitched up here. I will try and answer this one super briefly. It's absolutely not employer brands or in the EB team's responsibility to improve employee retention. Absolutely impossible. Do not take it on. However, it's an incredible opportunity, and I absolutely see it as your responsibility to be the conductor of the orchestra, to be the conduit between HR to L&D, OD, did I say diversity? All the different functions within an organisation that have an impact on employee retention. You might own experience, absolutely, but you need the initiatives. You can have the great comms in place, but if you don't have the initiatives in place that actually impact employee retention, career pathing, skills adjacencies, all that stuff, there's so much there. And I might actually do a whole other workshop on that. This is going to be so much fun. But I think it's the EB team's responsibility to bring those stakeholders to the table, get the positives, understand the negatives, and then create the comms and the brand around that accordingly.
Totally.
Yeah. You can see there's a whole session on that. You're absolutely welcome. Do we have any more questions coming through, Chels, for either Alex or I? Oh, here we go.
Given the emphasis on authentic employee-generated content to build brand trust and attract talent, how do you recommend companies foster genuine sharing without excessive corporate influence? Great question. I really think from our experience, it's around empowering employees to talk about the topics that they're passionate about, the interests that they have already, and to tell their story. So a lot of the ways that you can do that is, it can be difficult for large organizations you can't possibly know every employee and know what their passions are, but leveraging tools that are out there, plug for the MarTech as well, to say, pull through, enroll a segment of your employees or as many as you would like within the system, and being able to have them enroll themselves into communities that they identify with, interests that they have, passions that they have, topics that they maybe already are speaking about online, and really just having that be as authentic as possible of what they're passionate about. Truly, if you have somebody passionate about something, I mean, you just heard Elle and I talk about something we're passionate about.
Case in point. So true. Right.
It's just about tapping into and trying to understand that employee base. And truly for most large organizations, it's pretty impossible without a tool that can help you kind of digest all of that and pull it through in a funnel. So yeah. What about you?
Yeah, and I think if I would simplify that even further, I think it's about making it easy, like literally making it easy. And things like sending out content to share. And then, helping people with things like the social copy that they can edit and amend, but same as we're trying to make life easy for you, pass on that love, help your employees, be content sharers and advocates, but again, making it easy. What can you use to think, okay, yeah, I can do this. I'm engaged, and thank you for thinking about me. And interestingly, again, on the back of, I've literally just come out of some, goodness at World EB Day. I'm giving you lots of plugs here, Brett, by the way, for next year. But there was some conversation around, content moving down on KPIs and distribution moving up. And then we had this whole epic argument. It was so good because it's like, actually, distribution doesn't mean anything unless you've got content that means something to the person that's distributing it, so that they can put their own insight on it. Otherwise, it's just more noise. So, I would say focus, even also pick a couple of talent segments that, that are really important to you. You don't have to boil the ocean. Pick 3, 4, 5 talent segments and work with them as well. And also lead by example. So if you can get your leaders to become content sharers as well, then we've seen with our customers that really fast adoption there.
Yeah. I mean, a couple like free quick wins here as well that we've seen, like typically the ones that benefit from it the most or for asking for it the most will, jump in to help. So leading from the front and within TA, recruiters, employer branding leads, anybody who wants to make it happen, getting involved and sharing their story, sharing what it's like to work at the organization. A lot of times that will organically create kind of this idea of, oh, I want to do that. I'm interested in that. And people will start to bubble up that they have an interest or, want to be involved. We've also seen some pretty interesting strategies of maybe including like having like an exclusive little group to start off with. And then once something's exclusive, everybody wants to be involved. So,
you start with influencers and everyone wants to be an influencer.
Right, exactly. So a couple quick tips there. Certainly I think, the younger generation and interns, those are great areas to tap into.
Good call, Alex.
Authentically just so used to already doing it so much of their lives, and video in particular, which we know drives even further engagement. So a couple free quick tips for you at the end for those that stuck around.
So good. Lillian, we're going to send out the KPIs post this. Do not stress, you'll have it all sent. It should be in your inbox post this session. There's another question. Highlighted Glassdoor. Oh, thank you, Chelsea. The lovely Chelsea. It's like magic. Surprising prominence over platforms like LinkedIn. Do I see this as a lasting trend or short-term response? And how might LinkedIn regain its relevance? I'm going to answer this backwards. LinkedIn absolutely hasn't lost its relevance. It's just you've got to separate out the two. So LinkedIn, in fact, has changed its algorithms, promoting things like really expertise, thought leadership, really appropriate, relevant content. It's changed its algorithms to promote things like, sharing, etc. Again, we could probably do another session on that. It's about creating value for its members, talent attraction, etc. So I'm going to put LinkedIn there. Then going back to the piece around Glassdoor, I was surprised by its prominence. But then as I sat back and think about how, as I said, how many organizations have either suffered throughout the pandemic, have made layoffs, they're lean on resources, which means the people, like a lot of you guys on the call, that actually create, especially actually TA, employer branding people that create really good resources, unfortunately, were also laid off. They're going through transformations. Their eye might be off the prize as they're trying to figure out what the future means. And unfortunately with that, if there's a lack of communication within the organization, it's going to breed probably a bit of dissent. People aren't so happy and the experiences aren't so good. And that, I think, is now why Glassdoor has its prominence in trying to, I think, fix that. Like there's a lot of there are a lot of more negative reviews or about the culture, and people are living in fear. So I think what's happening now, organizations are saying we have to fix this, because now that we're coming through that and have a view of what our future workforce hiring plans and our strategy looks like, we now need to fix this. So I think people are saying, how do we help our people that are here understand the future, help them create a more positive, and I still want to say real and authentic view of their organization on the platform.
Yeah. Absolutely. People crave, authentic content. And I think that Glassdoor has just always kind of resonated as because of the option to be anonymous, like as an authentic view. into employee experiences. But I think with the shift of employee generated content and somebody having the willingness to, put their face and their name and their story, then even share it out by themselves, that also has the same impact into somebody giving a stamp of approval versus it coming from the company as a third party or in between.
And I feel like I need to do a quick tip too, as you did one, Alex. So I might finish on this because I don't see any more questions coming through. But my quick tip as well is, like, how can you do that? Will be the next question. I'm probably in the guide as well. I can't remember what we did now, but there's so much goodness there. But anyway, quick tip would be, for example, if you see a point within your organization that you're getting consistently negative reviews, there's two things you can do. One is absolutely you can fix it. That's obvious, but that's often a longer term solution. Again, I think I sort of talked about that in a different scenario earlier. But what you can do is, for example, is let's say send out a question or send out a couple of questions to 500 odd people or 20 people or 5,000, depending on the size of the organization, but send out a couple of questions to your employees to actually share and answer and address that on Glassdoor with their views of, maybe through Pandemic we went through a lot of, for example, the answer might be, we went through a lot of redundancies, but now we're seeing a lot clearer, future comms around the organization and where we're going. And, culture is just getting more motivated. I mean, I'm making up an answer right on the fly, but I think that's what you can do is help your people who are having a positive experience mitigate those negative comments, for example.
Yeah. Awesome.
I don't think we have any more questions through. I think we're all good. So, Alex, it's been wonderful. Our inaugural LinkedIn Live together. Yeah. I think there's many. I can see many in our future, right?
Yeah, hopefully in person as well. Some also, and would love to meet with everybody on here as well. And if there aren't any other questions that you put through in the chat, feel free to reach out to us. Again, as you've noticed, Elle and I can talk about this all day, have probably even more quick tips that we'll give you. So happy to chat. This was great. Thank you so much, Elle.
Absolutely. And to finish off, Laura, again, one question, how do you get the guide? It's going to be sent out to you.
You'll have all the things, all of the support, all of the strategic guides, everything's going to be sent out. And again, more than happy to chat one-on-one, chat one to your team, whatever it is that you need. Any questions, let us know. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Bye.